Hello everyone and welcome to another We Interview series video here on Gamingtrend. My name is Adam Marino and we are here with Ben Haumiller, who is our Dynasty guy here at College Football 25. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Dynasty is my favorite mode from the older games. Franchise is my favorite in Madden. I play a lot of it. I play all of the different ways of playing where you start as the offensive coordinator at the small school and try to make your way to the big one. We're bringing it back again.
Right.
It is one of the highlights for me of the presentation today was getting to hear all about that and all of the stuff you've got going on. Can you tell me what your favorite thing about Dynasty Mode is?
Wow. So many ways I can go with that.
Yeah.
So I'm a lifelong Dynasty guy myself. Even before I had the luxury of working on this game and the pleasure to work on this game for a decade in the old world, I was still a Dynasty guy through and through. And that's what got me into the industry, was this game. And to be able to help build it was such a dream. And then here I am a decade later and being able to help bring it back. My favorite thing has always been recruiting.
There you go.
It always is. It's the lifeblood of this sport. It's one of those things that, we have a lot of fortunate things in our world where we have the shortest season of any sport. So you can get to that next year faster. You have that piece like scouting, for example. Scouting is in other professional sporting games, but you're just learning information to use for a later date. In our world, you can use that information right now. I'm scouting these two quarterbacks. This one's better than that one. That's the kid I'm going to go with. I'm going to drop the other one. You have that sort of piece that you can use right now. The dopamine hit you get. I was talking about that. Yeah. To see the progress you're making on that quarterback of the future that's going to set you up for national championship runs, to see how you're progressing with them. And you get to that next week and you're a little bit further. You get to that next week, someone's gaining on me. Then you get to that next week and you're a little further. Now you're getting that commitment. Now you want to get to that next year so you can play with them. That's the stuff that I think really just motivates all of us, that we love. I mean, we consume this whole sport. We love that passion I think you see is to a man on this team and a woman on this team, that we have so many people that just love this sport. And even those, I think that's been overall my favorite thing is I'm a true believer. I love this sport. I knew this game was coming back. And there are others that are like me. I love meeting those and seeing them and bringing them onto the team. But also, too, you can see others get the bug. Yeah. And they start to work in this game, and they're just like, I kind of like, this is fun. Oh, yeah. And so they start getting into the sport, and they become fans. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this game in general, is it makes people a smarter college football fan. They can learn more about the sport, both their own favorite team, but also all these other schools that are out there that they might not know about. Rosters. You're going to know more about your own school, but also your opponents and other teams just by playing the game, because you're going to have so many reps of playing that. The college football playoff. Yeah. It's such a luxury in our game that we get to experience a college football playoff, the 12-team playoff, before it ever happens in the real world. Yeah. That's amazing. And also, too, there are odd rules to how the structure of that playoff works with seeding and which teams can get a bye and which ones can't, that are going to confuse a lot of fans. We saw
a little bit of that this year in real life. And
now, as a Florida State fan, we're not going to talk about that. But you can see just that is going to be something that helps be an educational tool for the sport itself. When the playoff happens in real life, the people who are playing this game are going to understand why Notre Dame didn't get a first-round bye if they're undefeated, why these things are the way they are, because the game is such a great teaching tool for that.
So you kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, but with recruiting, there have been a lot of changes throughout the past 11 years since the last game that we had. What can you tell us about some of the changes that comes along with recruiting process, the trade portal? These things are changing on a week-to-week basis, it seems sometimes. What kind of challenge does that leave for you guys, and how are you kind of proceeding forward as like a fluidity kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's something you look at analyzing the whole sport, kind of predicting a little bit of what the future is going to hold. How do we play our role into that? Being an E for everyone game, and trying to make sure we're not getting too deep into certain waters that might annoy our partners, because we do have a responsibility to them as well. Yeah. But you look at the sport and ever changing between high school recruiting and what's happened there, NIL coming along, the transfer portal, and how all of those are working, and you have three phases of roster management now in the real world, between high school recruiting, maintaining your current roster and trying to keep who you want to keep from that, and then going into the portal as well. So replicating those elements and knowing that there's so much that we need to get to build this foundation of this game. So you kind of lay that foundation, and then from there you can start building up. So, if we didn't get to everything, we have a plan. Yeah. And there's some things like NIL that we consciously made a decision to not go super deep on in the dynasty side of things, because
it's always changing.
It's always changing, and the rule set right now is that schools cannot be the ones that are doing the deals and facilitating those. In Dynasty, you're the school. So it kind of hamstrung us a little bit on how we can do that, but also, too, how much is changing. We didn't want to go in and rush right in and making something that the moment we launch is out of date.
Yeah.
Or we have to rip out after 1 year and then go in a whole different direction. So we're not going to avoid it forever. It's very light as far as the first year that goes, but that was an intentional choice that we are going to look to revisit as the world changes.
That's great to hear that you guys are willing and understanding that things have to be fluid and you have to make decisions that may not be popular to some, but will be better for the game lasting longer, because, we don't want this to go away again.
Correct.
And we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to keep this going. And if that means taking a step back and saying, well, we don't want to touch that yet, I think that fans should be able to understand that. Again, I've loved the storylines that you can create using Dynasty Mode. One of the things that I really loved in the older games was starting at my alma mater, Middle Tennessee State.
Oh, there we go.
Offensive coordinator.
Of course, yeah.
I start there. Usually you get the head coaching job first there, and then, you move on to another school, or you go. And I loved the process of, the crowd is not always the loudest at MTSU.
Right.
Compared to some bigger schools. But then if you're the head coach of that small school and you're like, cool, I've done my time, I'm ready to go to a bigger school, and then you go to the University of Tennessee, my other favorite college team, and then you walk into the stadium for the first time, or you see the stadium surrounding the first time, that was always a huge deal. And you guys have put a lot of time and effort. It's very clear of making sure that the traditions, the sounds, everything is so iconic for those schools. What can you tell us about the experience that you might feel walking in as, going from that small school to that big school, the first time you're on that sideline for the University of Tennessee? What are you gonna hear? How are you gonna experience that?
I mean, we know it's Tennessee, right? Rocky Top from the moment it starts to the moment you leave the stadium.
That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
But that's the thing, right? These are cathedrals of college football, and the size that you have of these and the scale of them, and that difference that we were talking about there of a smaller school. Do you want to build them up, and do you want to make MTSU into a national powerhouse, or do you want to hop around other places and build your own coach up, and then maybe take over as Tennessee? You have all those different options available to you, which I love about this game. Is it's that storytelling piece.
Yeah.
What do you want it to be? It's that sandbox that we're building, that you guys get to experience whatever you want it to be. I mean, custom conferences, for example.
Yeah.
MTSU doesn't have to stay where they're. You can put them in the SEC and build them up that way, and see what that world looks like.
That would be
go
a
head to
challenge,
head, right? And you can grow your conferences. You can shrink your conferences, change conference rules, set your dynamic, protected opponents as well. Yeah. So let's say you move, MTSU into the SEC. You can set it up to play so that the rotation happens, but you can say, I want to play Vandy and I want to play Tennessee every single year.
Yeah.
Go ahead and set that up.
That's such a phenomenal thing to hear. It creates those storylines, and I think that's what keeps Dynasty fresh, is that not only do you have the ability to do the coaching carousel, have control of your roster, have control of your coaches, having those players moving around, but on top of that, you have the ability, it stays fresh because those players leave. Some of them graduate after 2 years because they go to the NFL. You guys had an example where it was the guy left after his sophomore year for the NFL, and you're stuck having to figure out how to fill that spot. So I feel like Dynasty has a really great foundation this year of taking the things that we liked from the older games, making sure that they're all revamped for the new generation, and it looks fabulous, but it sounds even better. And I was a marching band kid, so hearing those marching bands go off and playing Rocky Top and playing all the fight songs for MTSU was nostalgic for me on so many levels. But I heard multiple people today say, this makes me want to cry. I'm so happy. And that has to be a breath of fresh air for you guys, where it's been you've had to keep the secret for so long.
Yeah.
How does it feel to finally get feedback from the general populace. People have been playing the older games for years waiting for this.
I mean, that's what's kept this thing going, right? The community has kept this game alive.
Yeah.
A decade-old game that you can go on eBay now and pay more than you pay for a brand new game to be able to get. Like, that's wild. Like, I play a lot of old school games. I'm an old man, right?
Yeah.
I play everything current too, but I love playing older games, and I love playing old sports games that I can go and buy for $1, right? You know. But now this one, it has reached this kind of legendary status to a degree. So there was a big undertaking on our part of how are we going to rekindle that magic, right? Every team is somebody's favorite. We always say that, and so we want to make sure we're hitting all of those things. As someone who college football is my religion, you can spot a phony from a mile away.
Yeah.
And so if things like you were saying, like a redshirt sophomore, is eligible to go to the NFL, if that's not available in the game, it feels fake.
Yeah.
So having that option in there, and you can try and convince that player to come back and stay. And if he's a first-round talent, he ain't coming back. But you can get a coach skill to try and improve the chances of him coming back and those sort of things. So I think that was a part of the game on the whole was how do we recreate this whole thing?
Yeah.
Because as a Florida State guy, if I were just a fan and not someone making the game, I would say, well, everything you're spending, everything you're doing for Florida and Miami is a waste.
Yeah.
Don't do anything with those guys. Put it all towards Florida State. That's how ravenous and passionate fans are. And that's what I love about the sport is that ravenous, passionate fan base. And so it's really kind of how can we pay homage to all of those different pieces and make everybody feel like they're, that everybody on this team was a fan of their favorite school. I think that is when we're doing our job the best, when everybody's like, oh, they get me,
The theme of this whole day for me, I kept writing it down in my notes, was passion.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does seem like your team entirely top to bottom has a passion for this that is not always normal in game studios. So I appreciate you giving us a little bit of an insight as to what College Football 25 has to offer, and I'm excited.
I mean, thank you so much, and that passion fuels every one of us and it keeps everyone else in check. That you've got to keep that and maintain that same level that everybody else has the same level I have, and I have to have the same level everyone else has because we're all in this together to do such a monumental thing, which is bringing this game back. It's just to be a part of it after the joy that I had being a part of the old version.
Yeah,
this is special to be able to bring this thing back and to be here for this next generation of people. All these kids who are growing up now that never got to experience this game, they're going to. And they're going to be bigger college fans because of that. And as a true believer of college football, I love the fact that I get to be in a unique position to be a part of this great team that is doing this.
Well, thank you so much for giving us some insight, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Of course.
So much.
No, thank you.
And you guys can check out College Football 25 soon.
There we go.